Hi everybody, thanks for being here. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are all having a good day. Hope you guys are having a good week. Sunday was Mother's Day, so hopefully you had a good day, however that applies to you, whether you are a mom or you have a mom that you celebrated or that you have somebody that you're missing, all the way around. So our intention for this week, I'll go ahead and put that up. Hi Mary, thanks for being here. It's good to see you. I will put the intention up here. As if you don't know, it's always released on Sunday, so that way you can look at it yourself if you would like to. This week, Wholehearted Consideration Guides Progress. Wholehearted Consideration Guides Progress. Originally, when I was looking at the intention and putting things together, it was a little bit longer, and it had something about progress and processes. So I kind of have it on my little piece of paper that I keep nearby me, kind of like in parentheses, like I don't know, like they do for like song titles for like a second part of like a title or something like that. So I have it kind of two-parted. I have it written down. I always write it down for the week and then refer back to it. I have a planner that I use for work, like for scheduling. So I write it right in there. Wholehearted Consideration Guides Progress, parentheses, and New Processes. So that's what I have going for mine. Couple aspects that we have going on this week that we're looking at, one of which already happened yesterday, but still good to feel within it because it all plays into the intention and the energy that's around. So especially if you're somebody that takes a peek at it on Sunday, I still want to make sure that I talk about everything that is going on this week because it all plays a part in the intention. So yesterday, Venus sextiling Saturn. So Venus from Taurus, we've talked about how Venus is in her own sign, in her own domicile right now, sextiling Saturn. Starts off the week on a little bit of a serious tone. This week is interesting because it feels like it starts one way and kind of ends another way. So things may be possibly changing throughout the week for you. See how that feels and how that plays out, and then maybe kind of review that at the end of like next week or something, kind of in hindsight maybe. So it starts out with a little bit of a serious tone. Seriousness about Venus things. So the things that bring us pleasure, joy, harmony, balance, love, beauty, friendship, relationships, all of those wonderful Venus things that we've talked about and listed off before. Sextile, so it's not, like, could be a square, could be an opposition, right? But it's these two planets working together, so it's some sort of like serious focus, some sort of like maturity, or like the wholehearted consideration, the first part of this this intention here. So Venus being the planet of bringing things together, the feminine energy of collectivity and bringing things into harmony, you have this like wholeheartedness idea within Venus, right? Like this all-encompassing, all-inclusive, including everybody, including everything, and making it all happy and joyful some way, if possible, or at least trying to have all the things possibly like coexist together, all of the nice things. So wholehearted consideration. Venus is a planet that wherever she's putting her power, she's putting her energy, she's bringing things together, and from a wholehearted, a like thoughtful, and yeah, like a very she's coming from a thoughtful place. So she's wholeheartedly doing whatever it is that she's doing, right? Putting her all into it, emotion, physicality, all of it. Saturn asks us to, or not necessarily asks us, sometimes makes us see all sides. So Saturn can at times kind of stop us in our tracks. I don't necessarily always see that as like a limitation or like a like, no, you cannot cross here. It's more like slow down. Be sure that you have laid out the plans. Be sure you have done all the things that Saturn wants you to do, that you've put all of the things together, you've thought about it all, and you have all of the different parts coming together. So I feel like when you have Venus and Saturn coming together in a sextile, in a favorable aspect, you have them working together. So you have that desire to bring things together, to bring that community, that all-inclusiveness and that harmony and that balance from Venus. But then you have Saturn that wants you to see the full picture, that has us invited to see things maybe from a different perspective by stepping back. So that's where Saturn can like stop you in its tracks and say like, no, we can't go forward like quite yet. You have to make sure that you've done things properly. You've done things maybe the mature way, and things have all been laid out rightly. Or maybe there's some sort of new like foundational piece of something coming together for you here within something. So it starts off with this like seriousness, but in a way that can be foundation building or like framework building, things that can last a while, you know, that type of thing is kind of where it starts. So that aspect, like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see you all here. Stopping and saying hi in all the comments here really quick because there's a bunch of people saying hi, so appreciate you all for being here. Yeah, it starts out with maybe like a little bit of a somberness, you know, maybe like a seriousness or like a heaviness, maybe a little bit of a weightiness, maybe like work, like putting things together or something like that. But then it starts to kind of flow a little bit. So by Wednesday, Mercury is going to be moving into the sign of Taurus, so moving from the sign of Aries into the sign of Taurus, which is where Venus is, which is where the Sun-Jupiter conjunction is that we're going to talk about here that's coming up this weekend. So Mercury moving from the fiery Aries sign of like initiation and quick starting, jumping, like not always thinking things through before just like jumping right into it. Sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need to just like do the thing before we think too much about the thing. Otherwise the thing's not going to happen, like that type of thing. But Mercury has been in a sign that like has it rolling all the time. So like if your mind feels like it's been spinning really, really quickly or like bouncing from one thing to another, like maybe not able to focus or something like that, Mercury in the sign of Aries can just kind of like keep rolling and kind of like almost, since Mercury rules our mind and our thought processes and like the way we communicate, it can kind of just like snowball where things just kind of roll really quickly, you know, maybe like physical actions or like speaking words just kind of roll quickly off the tongue. So whether that's positive or negative for you, it can go either way. But there maybe has been this like quickness of the mind or this swiftness of the tongue or communication. And again, sometimes we need to just be able to do or say the thing, but sometimes we need to think before we speak. And maybe there's been some times of like not thinking before speaking, like the words just kind of come out and then you think about it afterwards. Mercury moving into the sign of Taurus, if that has been a thing, or like that unfocused mind because you have like all of this going on in your head at the same time, moving into the sign of Taurus into a solid, stable earth sign, might kind of slow those mental processes down a little bit, or kind of stabilize the thoughts, stabilize the communication, make things a little bit slower and a little bit more drawn out, maybe a little bit more clear, a little more clarity maybe. But I feel like Mercury moving into the sign of Taurus, like that wholehearted consideration thing in the beginning of the intention, totally Mercury moving from Aries into the sign of Taurus. So like maybe if we've just been going quickly and I don't know, some people might be running on adrenaline, some people might be running on just pure motivation or just rolling with the energies and just things are just kind of happening and just being said and just being done. Now there may be a chance to kind of slow down, breathe a little bit, Just kind of like stop and smell those spring flowers that come up in the sign of Taurus. Like, think about the bowl. Sometimes that stereotype of like Taurus being lazy, it's just like sometimes you need to be lazy, right? Like Aries may have had Mercury just really moving quick and doing all the things, and like maybe even all the things coming at you, because Mercury rules tools and things like that as well. So maybe like positive things maybe have been coming towards you. I like to always point out that this never, like, these don't always like denote positive or negative, and usually it does not, because like whether it plays out positively or plays out negatively, that is totally subjective and dependent on the individual and situation and all of that type of stuff. But there's this invitation as Mercury moves through the sign of Taurus to just slow down, think things through, and spend a little extra time. Spend a little extra time with your thoughts. Spend a little extra time on your words. If you're somebody that does any sort of writing or journaling, maybe spending a little bit more time like with the way you physically write things or something like that. I'm not a huge journaler, so I'm not exactly sure. But however you can make it a little bit more intentional, right? Like our intention. Just make things a little bit more intentional. You have this opportunity to do so. And then you may be able to, like in that way that Venus like wholeheartedly wants to bring all the things together. Mercury coming into the sign of Taurus is going to kind of bring along some of those qualities into Mercury, so into our mind, our thoughts, and our perception, our communication, the tools, and all of those mercurial type of things. Because as Mercury moves into Venus's sign, Mercury is going to be maybe like answering to Venus, or kind of it's like being in Venus's area, being around Venus. And once you start being around somebody for long enough, you kind of start to act like them in a little way sometimes. So it's kind of like that, where once the planet moves into another planet's area, it kind of takes on those traits, and it is like impressionable by that planet, and that planet that rules it. So that would be Venus kind of enacting on Mercury here. So yeah, it's a nice place to kind of slow down and to kind of like consider things fully. Now, we do know that Pluto is sitting at the beginning of Aquarius, right? Sitting at 2 degrees currently. So Wednesday, Mercury moves into the sign of Taurus. By Friday, Mercury is coming into a square with Pluto. So you have this slowing of the mind, you have this like spending a little bit more time places with your thoughts and stuff like that. And then this slower, like more intentional Mercury comes into a square with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. So you have this huge like mental depth. And although Mercury is moving quickly, and it's a short transit, it's just kind of like a maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe even Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because you have a little more pull on the approaching end there, on the applying aspect rather than the separating aspect, which means before the actual conjunction rather than after the conjunction. Once they start to move away, then the power kind of weakens a little bit, or the energy starts to fade. So as we have this like slowing and sitting with energy, Mercury coming into contact with Pluto, the lord of the underworld, of the mental depth, okay, that surrounds us. So like Pluto is a planet that fully surrounds you in something, right? So like the underworld, like being enveloped in, like you turn off the light and it's pitch black in a room and you are like completely surrounded by darkness. Using that because it's kind of a Plutonian type reference. But there's this like spending time within the depth of the mind here towards the end of the week. And, this is still kind of feels like it pulls in the weightiness that we have starting with Venus and Saturn. But the square kind of prompts us to do something. The square is of the nature of Mars. So it kind of makes us like uncomfortable enough to where we want to move or we want to do something. So there's some motivation that can come out of this square. If things start to come up like from the subconscious, old conditionings, old habits, things that you thought were like done and over with, they start to come back up a little bit. This might be an opportunity or an invitation to sit with them in a healthy way. Mercury in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign, so like it's the sign of the physical world. So I feel like I'm coming back to that journaling thing. So like if things come up, writing while Mercury is in the sign of Taurus, or like doing something physical to get that energy out. So whether it's like creating something, creating some sort of craft or some sort of artwork or some sort of project, spending time in nature, like out in the physical world. It's if it's springtime where you live, like it is where I am, like digging in the dirt and doing some sort of gardening or something like that. Might be things that feel good or feel right or feel releasing towards the end of the week here. Immediately following that, on Saturday, this is the big aspect that we have of the week, the Sun conjoins Jupiter. So the week starts out a little bit heavy and starts out a little bit like, I keep saying the word heavy, but it really just feels like it's making us see the whole picture, like this wholehearted consideration. So Venus sextiling Saturn in a favorable aspect, but how can we look at things? How can we see the whole picture in a mature type of way through Venus and Saturn? How can we slow down a little bit as Mercury moves into the sign of Taurus? Maybe as that mind kind of slows down, maybe as we're not so distracted as we could have been with Mercury in the sign of Aries, because we kind of just the mind keeps spinning, just keeps going. Now that's moved into the sign of Taurus and we're kind of slowing down. It doesn't allow for those distractions, so there's more space for maybe sitting with the things that we've been not paying attention to. They don't necessarily have to be things that are like lifelong trauma, childhood type things. They could be, or conditionings and things like that. But it could just be like the thing you've been ignoring, the thing that you haven't been putting your full attention to, something like that kind of coming up. But then there's some sort of motivation that comes up through that square to Pluto. And just after that, the Sun conjoins Jupiter. When the Sun conjoins any planet, it puts light. It's like I've talked about it being like a spotlight, or like there's like a flashlight being shined right on that planet. So the Sun amplifies and intensifies and puts a light or a spotlight on that planet. Okay, and we know that Jupiter has been doing a whole lot lately. The conjunction is at 29 degrees of Taurus, just a little while before Jupiter moves into the sign of Gemini. Sun's going to be moving into the sign of Gemini first, right? But with all of this like kind of a little bit more serious energy in the beginning of the week, it's all leading up to the Sun conjoining with Jupiter at 29 degrees of Taurus. So all of that Jupiter-Uranus stuff that we've been talking about, because that all applies to what Jupiter is working on and has been doing within your own life, in your own chart, all of that amplified, all of that kind of a light shined on it. So, when the Sun conjoins Jupiter, there can be like an increase of optimism. There can be an abundance of something showing up, which can increase kind of like your mood, or like give you that little bit of like optimistic feeling. And that feels kind of good following these heavier energies that, quite frankly, probably are just things that need to be handled before the Sun and Jupiter can give you some sort of blessing. So we know that Jupiter often brings positive things, but Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So wherever the action has been going on in Taurus in your own life, there's a focus on that this weekend. But there's a focus on it after looking at a change of process throughout the week and a change of consideration and looking at the whole picture. So, as Jupiter and Uranus came together, things could be a little bit pingy, a little bit like spontaneous, or like a little bit all over the place. Now the two planets have separated a little bit, but they're still working together in the sign of Taurus because they're both still in Taurus. Now Jupiter is able to not be quite so pingy and quite so like so have so much of that like surprise factor that it does when it was sitting a little bit closer to Uranus, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like in the beginning of the week, there's some work to be done, there's some things to handle, but by the end of the week, there could be some little nugget of positivity or a big nugget of positivity that kind of pops up and shows up for you. It's at 29 degrees, so it's going to be sextiling Neptune and Pisces. Jupiter on its own, spirituality, religion, all under the bigger branch of philosophy, okay? So Jupiter rules philosophy and these bigger systems that we that kind of govern over us somehow. So that can be the legal systems and like the government that rules over you. That can be the philosophies that you subscribe and the beliefs that you subscribe to and the different traditions that you follow and the morals and the ethics that you follow, all of those type of like guiding systems, those are all very Jupiterian type things. So there could be a focus on that type of stuff towards the end of the week. And it may be that like as those type of things come through towards the end of the week, leading up to that, you have some things kind of poking through that maybe are hindering or in your way, or things that kind of need to be dealt with in some way. But leading up to this very, very nice conjunction that we have of Sun Jupiter by the end of the week. Since Jupiter within its own right has something to say with like our beliefs and our spirituality and maybe our religion and those type of things. Neptune also has something to say about that as well. So there may be some sort of focus on your own beliefs, ethics, morals. You could see that collectively too, where there's like some sort of focus on that towards the end of the week here. But Neptune's that planet that kind of fully envelops us in one thing. But remember, in order to do that, it needs to kind of like push something else aside, or something else needs to kind of fade away. So it's an interesting energy at the end of the week here. Anytime a planet comes into a conjunction with the sun, it's starting a new cycle or a new period for that planet. So there is a bit of a reset for Jupiter here. So I like that just before Jupiter enters like 29 degrees, so the last degree of Taurus, Jupiter gets this reset with the sun. Jupiter's been spending a lot of time with Uranus, so there may be things kind of like that have blown up quickly, surprisingly, rebelliously, things like that. Now Jupiter is kind of moving away from that and kind of moving into its into a new era, right? Where Jupiter's going to spend the next year in the sign of Gemini. So there's this this change towards the end of the week, or like this, there really is like this shift. I try not to say that too much because I feel like it's kind of a buzzword to say like things are shifting, but there really is kind of this build up to this Jupiterian, to this philosophical shift. And as Jupiter starts to move into the sign of Gemini, it's going to be a mental shift, a shift of the air element of some kind too. So that's really, really interesting to see where it comes with that. Venus conjoins Uranus on Saturday as well. So quite a few aspects we have going on this week. We haven't had a whole lot, but now we, with all the planets clustered together, but we have a few conjunctions and then the sign changes also. So Venus conjoining Uranus, progress, change, that quick surprising things related to Venus stuff. So it's kind of like the sextile to Saturn in the beginning of the week, making you like slow down, look at things, allowing you to have like some sort of breakthroughs later on, or like some sort of progress later on. New processes later on. That's the Sun Jupiter thing. So yeah, there's this week it's interesting. There's kind of a mixed bag going on here this week. A lot of different energies kind of all melding together around the same time, and I think it's interesting how it'll all play out for all of us. So wholehearted consideration guides progress. When I was looking at this week, it felt like we're given an opportunity to really fully look at the full picture. And the cards that I pulled this week kind of speak to that. So, did a tarot and an oracle card again because it just feels like it's kind of working, I guess. So we got Five of Swords is the tarot card that popped up here. Little guy has those 5 swords. Swords are of the air element, so of the intellectual and the mind communication element. The 5, being like the middle number always makes me think of being between two things, so like between two phases. And I feel like that kind of speaks to the shift that we kind of have coming like towards the end of the week and into next week as things start to change. The 5 of Swords makes me think of like pick your battles, right? It's a defensive card. It's a kind of like on guard or on edge card of the intellectual realm. So there's something like, it's almost like too hyper focused on something, or we're paying attention to like a specific detail maybe a little bit too much. And maybe not seeing the full picture, but we have invitations to do that this week. Mercury slowing down as it moves into the sign of Taurus. Venus Saturn telling us to kind of consider all parts of things, like see the full framework, see the full foundation, see the full picture. Pluto, if there's anything that we are trying to avoid or things that we are trying to not necessarily deal with, Pluto may kind of bring those things forward. So, maybe there's been a lot of energy. So maybe there's some of us that are a little bit like hyper focused on different things. So for me, I was thinking that this card just kind of reiterates that, like, see the whole picture. Have this like level of wholehearted consideration rather than like, I do the same thing too, right? Like you tend to focus on like specific details or like one part of something that you really, really want it to go a certain way. Sometimes when we're like too hyper focused on things, then we're putting up our own resistance to things too, and then you're kind of blocking that thing that you are trying to like focus so hard on getting. You're really blocking it because you're not necessarily focusing on like attaining that thing and having that thing. You're really more, maybe without even realizing, focusing on the fact that you don't have the thing. And when you focus on the fact that you don't have the thing or you can't do the thing, that's what your mind is hearing, is like, I can't, or I don't have, or I won't have, like that type of thing. So 5 of Swords, make sure, defense is up, not too high up, watching what we say, watching our actions, and just slowing things down a little bit. I think this is a good week for that. Oracle card was the exact same one we got last week. I promise I shuffled these. I promise I've used them since then. We got the same Stargazer card. Set your sights higher. So last week we had, what was it, like, I think it was the Queen of Cups. It was some sort of feminine energy that we had in the cards. saying that like you have all of that within you, right? Like set your sights high because you have everything that you need. Maybe there's been something that we've been focusing a little bit too much on that we need. So like not having that tunnel vision and setting your sights high and aiming for like, just because there's some hard work to do at the beginning of the week doesn't mean that Sun-Jupiter conjunction and that like cool abundance is not coming your way type of thing. Kind of like that. So set your sight higher. Don't hyper focus too much on just like what's right here. Seeing things fully, slowly. And I feel like this whole week, like everything in general, all of these aspects, I feel like it's just a great week for meditation. It's a great week for contemplation. It's a great week for sitting with your own, like sitting with whatever it is that you have to sit with, right? In a mature fashion, Venus, Saturn, in a slower, more intentional way, Mercury and Taurus. See what comes up as Mercury moves into a conversation with Pluto. And it's kind of like one of those weeks where like maybe if you do all the work throughout the week and you get the hard work done, the weekend will be rewarding. So kind of like our typical 5-day work week that we have where in the United States, where like many people work Monday through Friday and they bust their ass all week and they hope to be able to relax on the weekend. Something kind of like that. Yeah, not hyper focusing on something, not like that tunnel vision, not having that tunnel vision. And I think it's a cool energy too. I think it's a cool productive energy and something to work with. So, wholehearted consideration, all of this that we have going on at the beginning of the week, leading to progress, new processes, new shifts, and new things coming as things start to move into the sign of Gemini. So, that conjunction of the Sun, Jupiter, being sextile Neptune, like, what do you need to leave behind as Jupiter and the Sun both, the Sun first, as planets start to move into Gemini? Like, what do you need to leave behind in Taurus? Taurus, being a physical sign, being a solid, fixed earth sign, tends to kind of hold things and not want to let them go. For better or for worse, like, keeping the things as they are and not changing them. Sometimes we need to be a little flexible. So what can Neptune help you kind of just dissipate from your point of view or from your focus or like from that tunnel vision to kind of widen your perspective a little bit? It's a cool option. It's a cool opportunity. So this week, I think in our meditation, I think if we just really sit with ourselves, that sounds really simple, but the simplest is the best sometimes. So I think this is a really, really cool energy. Also, the moon is in Leo right now, squaring Venus. If you're watching this live with us on Tuesday night, it went exact like an hour ago. So there's this square between Venus and the moon right now, just kind of like giving you that extra push to that extra motivation to want to find some sort of balance and some sort of harmony and have some sort of working between what you have going on right now and all of this action in the sign of Taurus. So there's this little extra connection like right now to try to find some sort of Venusian balance within our lives, within our environment, and within our own physical body as well. Venus, or the moon squaring Venus, if depending on where it falls in your chart, could be little hiccups in the road too. So if that's something that applies to you this evening, it could be the moon squaring Venus. Not to focus too much on that. So that's what we have going on for this week. Wholehearted consideration, guides, progress, and new processes. I just really liked the part of like progress and processes because I feel like both of them speak to like the Saturn energy that we have, the Pluto energy, and the Jupiter energy that we have kind of interacting. So, deep breath. One more to center. Those couple that I've started taking in between the talking and the next talking part of leading the meditation, that's just kind of for me to reset or rebalance and just get ready for that shift, get ready for the next section. So, okay, let's get ready for this here. See where our meditation takes us, and I know wherever it is, it will be a lovely, beautiful space. So, take one last look at the intention there if you haven't already. Wholehearted consideration guides progress. Wholehearted consideration guides progress. Get that off, and now you can see our intentional candle. I have a piece of fluorite here because I wanted to keep it simple on the table today, and fluorite for me connects to our intuitive mind, connects to that higher source, higher energy. So I just thought one simple piece of connecting us to our inner higher mind and to our higher selves would be a good, simple conduit to go along with our intention here this week. So we have our white intentional candle as always. I will go ahead and light the candle, and as I do, I will recite the intentional phrase. Feel free to say it with me out loud or in your mind, or not at all if you don't want to. Also, feel free to write it down on a piece of paper so that way you can keep it with you the rest of the week as well. So, wholehearted consideration guides progress. Light our candle. The flame ignites and begins to grow. As it does so, so does our intention. Wholehearted consideration guides progress. Wholehearted consideration guides progress. If this week feels like it's starting heavy, if it feels like there's a lot, there has been a lot, set your sights higher, just like the stargazer told us. See, because I'm not here to tell you what to do, and it's hard not to, but attempt to not to hyper-focus on details. Attempt to not have a tunnel vision on the hard stuff, like what isn't working, what is working. What battles should we pick? What battles should we not pick? Okay? And allow that to kind of guide you into some sort of ease in this moment here. Even if it's just temporary, even if those worries aren't something that you can actually fully release because they are real, true worries that have validation. Most likely they probably are. But they will work themselves out. I promise you that they will work themselves out. If you haven't already, find a nice comfortable position. If you're ready to go ahead and close your eyes, feel free to do so. But if you're not quite to that point yet, that's totally okay as well. Just attempt to soften your gaze as much as you possibly can. Perhaps you don't focus so intently on the screen where maybe you can see my face or some other object that is in front of you. Perhaps you can just kind of soften your gaze. Maybe your eyes gaze forward but slightly downward in a relaxed position to where it kind of falls just beyond your nose naturally and gently. And when you feel like you're ready to go ahead and close your eyes, feel free to do so. If you never close your eyes, also okay. Let's start by making space to notice our breath. As always, I think it's important to start by acknowledging the breath that you came here with, the quality of your breath, the efficiency of your breath, the quantity of your breath. How many breaths per minute are you taking? Does your breath feel efficient and fully satisfying? Or does it feel short or somewhat labored? Does your breath leave you feeling rejuvenated? Or does it feel like something that is just happening because it has to happen? Are you even intentionally feeling into your breath right now? Or has your mind drifted to something else? 29 degrees of Aries is a strong mental place. That's where Mercury sits right now. So if your mind is moving quickly and swiftly and you're having a hard time focusing, just keep at it. Be soft, be gentle with yourself, and it will come. After you've taken a moment to acknowledge your breath and sit with where you are in this moment, I then invite you to start deepening the inhales and the exhales. No requirements, no expectations, other than each inhale being slightly longer and bringing in slightly more breath than the one before it, while each exhale is slightly slower and slightly more elongated, fully releasing all of the air within you. Not putting any requirements on how we breathe in and out other than this elongated, slowing pace. As you continue to breathe in and out slowly, gently, the pattern takes over and we can slowly start to shift our focus from hyper-focusing on our breath by bringing our attention perhaps to our shoulders. Still breathing in and out slowly and comfortably, elongating the inhale and the exhale, but now bringing some of our intention, some of our focus, some of our consideration to our shoulders and to our upper back. Are your shoulders sore? Are they stiff? Or are they strong and relaxed? Are they comfortable or are they uncomfortable? Perhaps here you find a little movement in your shoulders. Mercury's still in Aries, still spinning quickly, a physical movement. Perhaps your shoulders circles one way and then the other. Perhaps you lift your arms up overhead, stretching your shoulders however feels comfortable to you. One arm across the chest, Perhaps you interlace your fingertips, bring them up overhead, fingers rain down, or perhaps you find your own movement, or perhaps you stay in a place of stillness. However much you are or are not moving right now, no requirements. Just sending love and attention, wholehearted consideration to our shoulders and to our upper back. Perhaps now our focus moves from our shoulders up to our neck region, towards the base of our skull. Any tightness or stiffness in this area. Do you have full range of motion, an extension of the neck, or is there some sort of limitation right now? Perhaps you take small circles with your head, first rotating one way and stopping to rotate the other. Perhaps you move your head side to side, forward and back, feeling any spots that come into your focus. And just gently moving through any motions that feel good. You can look at me, or you can just move intuitively however feels good to you. Our attention then moves from our neck back down over our shoulders and our upper back, traveling down our spine towards the mid-back and the lower back. What do you feel in this area? Do you feel stiffness? Do you feel relaxation? Do you feel openness? Do you feel tension or something closed up? Perhaps here, slow motion side to side. Perhaps reaching one arm up, over to the side, slightly if able. Perhaps reaching the other arm up, over slightly, just as you're able or as it feels comfortable. Again, no requirements. Our attention then comes to the base of our spine. You're now in the area, in the region just behind our pelvic region. So focusing on your hips. What do you feel here? Many of us feel tightness in our hips and our pelvic region for lots and lots of different reasons. I invite you to take a nice, big, deep inhale in now and feel that loving, supporting energy that is coming in through the inhale, moving down towards the base of your spine, towards your pelvis, making its way there naturally. So much abundant energy has come in through the inhale that you feel it extend below your hips, into your legs, down your knees, all the way down to your ankles and into your feet. Perhaps as you feel that energy moving down towards your feet, It prompts you to wiggle your toes, maybe making small circles with your ankles one way before moving the other. Here we sit in a space of wholehearted consideration for ourselves, for our own being and our own physical body. Mercury moving to Taurus, solid physical earth sign, relating very deeply to the physical body. Make space to bring some peace to this physical vessel that carries you for this lifetime. This vessel and this body may be temporary while your soul lives on eternally. It's the only one you have for this lifetime. As we inhabit this physical body with all of its strengths and all of its weaknesses, we are given the responsibility of caring for this physical vessel, protecting it, loving it, and caring for it. Without a solid, stable, healthy physical vessel, it's a lot more difficult to guide progress and new processes. So in honoring our soul, in honoring our journey and our path that extends forward and backwards in time, we honor and care for this body that is holding that soul, that eternal light and part of your being. And as things, events, people, conversations come and go throughout the week, remember that as long as you have your breath, as long as you are inhaling and exhaling, you can come back to this space of honoring and caring for not only your physical being and your physical vessel, but your energetic and spiritual body as well. Wholehearted consideration guides progress. Considering not only those around us, but also ourselves. Not considering just ourselves, but also all of the things around us. Seeing the whole wide picture may require a step back, may require a level of maturity and a slowing down. But as the sun moves through the last degrees of Taurus, moving towards Jupiter at 29 degrees of Taurus, there is a height of abundance, a height of knowledge, a height of blessings waiting just on the other side. But we will only get there if we set our sights high, see the whole picture, and don't hyper-focus on the details that don't need to be hyper-focused on. Whatever all of that means to you, because it's different for all of us. And I can almost guarantee that everybody is figuring out and thinking and processing and looking at how this applies to your life, because I guarantee that it does. We said it last week. We've been talking about Taurus for a long time in different ways. So there's this huge culmination of, we talked about the better half of 5 years, right? We lined up through all of that last week. And now it really does truly feel like there's a shift coming of some kind. For better or worse, Sun first, and then Jupiter, and then the other personal planets will follow along, that being Venus and Mercury will eventually move into the sign of Gemini, and we will have this shift from the physical focus, the earthly focus, the solid focus, to the airy Gemini focus of seeing all sides. So I feel like this is prepping us for that. Wholehearted consideration guides progress. Wholehearted consideration guides progress. If it feels like there's a lot going on this week at some point, just know and remember that you have to hold it all, right? You have to make space for everything. Maybe not all at one time. Maybe you have to sit one thing down to make space for another one. But yeah, there's lots of really good energy, lots of different energy this week. So if it feels like a mixed bag, it's because it is a bit of a mixed bag. But big blessings coming, and I hope you all have a great, wonderful week. So thank you all for being here as always. Hope you get something really, really good out of this all week. Like I said, this is a great week for meditation, contemplation, and sitting with things. So however you can do that in a healthy way, in whatever capacity, I completely invite you to do so and just see what comes up. See what you feel and hear with this little bit of a shift that we have coming here. So thank you all for being here as always. I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you can go into this week with a wholehearted Venusian consideration of all parts, and you get some really, really wonderful things that come through for you this week. Yep, I think that's it. So have a great week, and reach out to me at any time if you haven't anything at all. So much love to you, and look for a new intention on Sunday. Go ahead and find the Facebook event for next week and hit respond, like going, interested, whatever it is that you want to do, and you'll have a reminder for next week too. So intention will be out on social media and the website, meditativeastrology.com. So see you all next Tuesday, and have a good rest of your week. Bye, everybody.